In today's society, we are bombarded by information from a lot of different sources. This information is usually portrayed as the truth, as facts. However, these facts very often contradict each other. In everything from politics and religion to philosophy and science, there are a lot of propositions that we simply can't agree on. What is the best foreign policy? Which is the healthiest diet? Now, how do we reconcile the different answers to these questions? Who is right and who is wrong? Just asking this question implies that one party is right and the others are wrong. But this is not how I see it. The way I see it, ultimately nobody is right. And nobody is wrong either. You see, it all depends on what perspective you take. Now, you can't say anything about the world without assuming a perspective. No statement is true in and of itself. It can only be true in reference to something else, in reference to a perspective based on definitions and assumptions about the world and how things relate to each other. For example, how do we know that 1 + 1 = 2? Is it objectively true? No. 1 + 1 = 2 simply because we have defined it that way. It is true only within the mathematical framework, which is based on definitions and assumptions, also known as axioms. And just like axioms make up our whole mathematical framework, our assumptions about the world make up our worldview. Assumptions are things that we take for granted. Assuming something means that we take it to be true, and this gives us a reference point for further reasoning. Given that X is true, what can we say about Y? Assumptions are the starting point for any reasoning, and it is based on these assumptions that we construct our realities. Well, if that's the case, can't we just assume anything and construct any reality that we want? Theoretically, we can assume anything. However, in practice, we don't choose our assumptions arbitrarily. The purpose of our worldview is to make sense of the world. Thus, our assumptions need to make sense. That is, they have to be compatible with the other assumptions that we make. Now, different people make sense of the world in different ways. Different people make different assumptions. They take on different perspectives, and ultimately, they construct different realities. And this is one of the main reasons that we can't seem to agree on certain topics. It's not that anyone is ultimately right or wrong, it's just that we have different perspectives. Now, we may never be able to understand each other completely, but I think a good starting point is being aware of the different assumptions that we make, making our definitions and assumptions explicit. This way, we can have a rational discussion about our differences and maybe even change our minds.